think you were born? No, you were built.
Welcome back, Autobots, Decepticons, and everything in between to another Transformers theory. Today's is going to be all about Lockdown. Where he came from and how he got to Earth is going to be the core of this video. I highly recommend that you guys watch my Is Quintessa the creator of the Transformers, Knights Misconceptions, and Cybertron Misconceptions videos, since they all directly tie into this one and give you the context you need to understand this video. And if you click the iCard above, you can watch all of them right now. But if you already have, well, let's jump right into the video. Now, for those of you who may not know, Lockdown was introduced to us in the 4th installment of the Bayformers universe, that being Transformers Age of Extinction. He was neither a Decepticon nor an Autobot, but instead was a bounty hunter who worked for the highest bidder. When the creators of the Cybertronian race tasked him with capturing all the Cybertronian Knights, it took him centuries for him to hunt them all down, except for the final Knight, that being Optimus Prime. Lockdown eventually teamed up with the rogue CIA unit Cemetery Wind in order to hunt down Cybertronians and extract information from them so he could pinpoint Prime's location. Eventually, Lockdown would get his chance when Kinetic Solutions Incorporated intercepted the Autobots with their Stinger and Galvatron prototypes. When Prime was in a scuffle with Galvatron, Lockdown appeared on the scene and put Prime out of commission, taking him to his ship and putting him into a cell. However, the Autobots would go on a rescue mission and free their leader, in addition to the rest of the Cybertronian Knights, who turned out to be the legendary warriors known as the Dinobots. When Lockdown realized that his trophies were gone, he tracked the Autobots to Hong Kong, taking the battle to them. However, during the final battle, he would be sliced in half by Optimus, finally putting an end to his hunt. Now, despite Lockdown being the main villain of Age of Extinction, his origins are up in the air since we don't know why he was tasked with hunting down all the Knights. And we don't even know how he got in contact with the creators in the first place. We also don't know when exactly he came to Earth and how he made an alliance with Cemetery Wind. In addition to this, we don't even know why some characters know him by name, despite him not being present in any of the previous films. This list of questions easily goes on and on and on. So to flesh out Lockdown's ambiguous backstory, I'm going to be piecing one together for him using the information that we learned from Lockdown himself, in addition to several of the characters he's acquainted with. So with that said, let's get to it. A good place to start is to figure out how Lockdown got in contact with the creators. And well, in my Is Quintessa the creator of the Transformers video, I speculated that Quintessa went rogue and rebelled against the other creators, with her creating the Cybertronian Knights in order to kill them. I expanded upon this in my Knights Misconceptions video, saying that the Cybertronian Knights overpowered the creators, causing many of them to perish in battle while the rest fled and went into exile. However, I never explained what the exiled creators did. So to continue that story, I speculate that the creators wanted to get their revenge on Quintessa by turning her knights against her. However, in order to do this, the creators would need to get all the knights in one place if they wanted to convince them to betray Quintessa. And so they decided to build Lockdown as a counter to the Cybertronian Knights, giving him the skills and weaponry he needed in order to capture and bring back all the knights to them. Now, you may be wondering what I'm basing this all off of, since the majority of people believe that Lockdown was working for Quintessa and not the other creators. However, this isn't the case, since throughout the film, Lockdown refers to the creators as plural, not singular.
And your creators want you back. The creators want to sweep their chessboard clean. The creators, they don't like it.
If Lockdown was working for Quintessa, he would have called her by name and or would have referenced her as the creator and not the creators. Another piece of evidence that proves that Lockdown was working for the creators and not Quintessa is the fact that he tells Optimus that the creators did not want species to be mixed with other species.
All this species mixing with species. It upsets the cosmic balance. The creators, they don't like it.
In The Last Knight, Quintessa appears to go against this ideal since it seems like she wanted to mix species. This is evident since we see how Quintessa reformatted Cybertron into her own image, and to me it looks more like a techno-organic planet, due to all the grass growing on it, which wasn't previously there as we saw it in Transformers 2007 and in Dark of the Moon. This goes to show that Quintessa was either going to mix species after she killed Unicron, with the Transformers living among the humans possibly, or was going to make a new race of Transformer, since if you remember, there was a lot of Beast Wars concept art that was produced for the last night. So maybe she was trying to reshape Cybertron into a techno-organic planet. But since the Bayverse is now over, we can only speculate. So with all that said, that proves that Lockdown was not working with Quintessa, but instead with the other creators. Now moving on from this point, another thing that I want to address is Lockdown being a counter to the Cybertronian Knights. As we know, Lockdown was able to capture all of the Dinobots, with Grimlock being the strongest out of the bunch. Optimus was the only other Cybertronian that was able to beat Grimlock. This means that Lockdown would need to have the same strength as Optimus Prime in order for him to capture all the Dinobots. And here's an unpopular opinion. I believe that Lockdown is stronger than Optimus. I know, shocker, but I can prove this, since we know that he has around the same power level as Prime, since he was able to capture all 4 Dinobots. However, the smoking gun here is that Lockdown was able to beat Optimus 3 separate times. The first one being in Mexico City, where he damaged Prime to the point that he had to go into stasis lock.
So what happened in Mexico City? Well, you had him.
3 direct hits, a mortal wound. Then your men allowed him to escape.
The second one is when Prime was fighting Galvatron, and the third one was during the final battle where he pinned Prime to a cement pillar using his own sword. On top of that, he was also able to take Bumblebee out of the fight entirely by slamming him onto the ground once. Now, you could say that all of these examples were technicalities, since Lockdown did have help from outside sources. However, the only reason why Optimus was able to kill Lockdown was because he had his back turned to him. So if that doesn't show that Lockdown is stronger than Optimus, I don't know what will. But now moving back on to Lockdown's origins. After being tasked with hunting down the Knights, Lockdown would spend centuries trying to hunt them all down. This implies that the Knights must have split up sometime after Cybertron fell. We know that Optimus and the Dinobots were on Cybertron during the Civil War, since Optimus is the Autobot leader and Slug has an Autobot logo on his head, meaning that the Dinobots joined forces with the Autobots during the war. So then why did the group split up? Well, my best guess would be that once the Autobot-Decepticon Civil War started, the Cybertronian Knights were disbanded to fight the war, and eventually when Cybertron was destroyed, the group split up since their goal of protecting Cybertron failed. Optimus would take refuge on Earth with a handful of Autobots, while the Dinobots split up and went their own separate ways. This can explain why it took Lockdown centuries to hunt down all the Knights.
It's taken centuries, but I've collected all the Knights. But you...
During this century-long quest, we can assume that Lockdown built up his personal army, since in the film we can see that Lockdown has a handful of mercenaries in addition to some personal attack dogs. He also has some pusher drones that transported Optimus in addition to some stupid drones that brought Tessa to the trash. Now, it's unclear if these beings are of Cybertronian origin, since they don't appear to transform into anything nor do they even look like Cybertronians, which leads me to believe that Lockdown must have acquired this ragtag team while traveling from planet to planet. And this makes sense since we do know that Lockdown has traveled to several planets due to this line here.
Every galaxy I've traveled, all you species are the same.
Now another question that is up in the air is exactly how Lockdown got control of the Knights Temenos, which is the ship that Quintessa made for the Cybertronian Knights to explore the universe. The only information that we get from the film is this.
Remember this ship, Prime? Built for all you knights, you great crusaders, to explore the universe. Well, I commandeered it. It's my personal prison now.
My best guess would be that one of the Dinobot members had access to the ship after the team went their separate ways. Lockdown was somehow able to track down the ship, imprison the Dinobot flying it, and turn the ship into his own personal prison. Another question that's also up in the air is exactly how Bumblebee, Hound, Drift, Crosshairs, Ratchet, and Optimus know about Lockdown if he never appeared in any of the previous films. And, well, the answer to this is actually quite simple. You see, Lockdown would naturally go to Cybertron in order to hunt down the Knights, since it would be the first place to look. That's because Cybertron is the home world of the Cybertronian race. It's likely that he tried to hunt them down at first, but with a war raging on it was impossible. So I believe he would sell his services to the highest bidder, becoming a paid mercenary for the Decepticons. During this time, he would improve his skills and gain valuable knowledge while on the battlefield. This explanation can explain why they knew who Lockdown was, since he made a name for himself during the war. So with that squared off, another question many fans have is exactly how Lockdown got to Earth. We know that after Cybertron fell, Lockdown embarked on a multi-century long quest to capture all the Knights. And we also know that he had all the Knights locked up besides Prime before the events of Age of Extinction. However, we don't know what attracted him to Earth in order to find Prime, in addition to what year he made planetfall. And well, to address the first part, I believe that the collapsing of Cybertron attracted Lockdown to Earth. As we know, at the end of Dark of the Moon, when the control pillar was destroyed, it caused Cybertron to collapse in on itself as it was sucked back through the space bridge. However, before it collapsed, a massive shockwave was created as a result of the energy transfer ceasing to exist. I believe that this shockwave traveled throughout the far reaches of space, and eventually Lockdown would catch a glimpse of it. After picking up an energon reading from it, Lockdown would trace it to a planet unknown to him called Earth. As for what year he made planetfall, we know it was in between the events of Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction. We know that Dark of the Moon takes place during the summer of 2013, since Sam just finished up his 4-year degree in geopolitics, with him graduating from Princeton during the last week of May. We also know that Sam has been job hunting for 3 months due to a line Ron Witwicky says.
3 months out of school and he can't find a job?
So with that said, Dark of the Moon must logically take place around September 2013. As for Age of Extinction, we know that it takes place in May 2018, since Harold Attinger says that it's been 5 years since the Battle of Chicago.
As this committee knows, the invasion of Chicago was a defining day for our nation 5 years ago.
And we know it's the month of May since Tessa only has 2 weeks of high school left.
2 more weeks, girls, till no more classes ever.
This leaves a 4-year and 8-month window of time for Lockdown to make planetfall. However, I believe that Lockdown arrived on Earth sometime in early 2016. I come to this conclusion since the Chief of Staff tells the CIA director that the CIA has made some significant progress taking out the Decepticons ever since he took office 2 years ago. I believe that this increase of progress was due to Lockdown making an alliance with Cemetery Wind. This would make sense since, with his help, the CIA could easily be able to speed up the process of hunting down Transformers with a literal Cybertronian bounty hunter on their side. Furthermore, this 2016 date also works in the timeline since Lockdown's vehicle mode, a Lamborghini Aventador LP700-4, was a 2013 model, which means he would realistically be able to scan this vehicle by the time he made planetfall. As for how Lockdown got in contact with Harold Attinger and how he made an alliance with the CIA unit Cemetery Wind, I won't be covering that in this video since I plan to cover that part of Lockdown's origins in its own dedicated video called The Birth of Cemetery Wind, so be on the lookout for that video. And just like that, now you know how Lockdown was created and how he came to Earth. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have not already, check out the Fixing Transformers playlist for some more awesome theories. Also, don't forget to check out last video's sponsor, Warhammer, Chaos, and Conquest. But before I go, I want to say thank you to all my Patreons and channel members for supporting the channel. Without you guys, Trans Theories would not be where it is today, so a big fat thank you to all of you. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like rating because it does help the channel a lot. With that said, hit that outro.